Welcome to the Better Outcomes podcast, where we discuss all things leadership, sales, and communication in Australian business. At Better Outcomes Training, we provide world-class training solutions for businesses who want to arm their teams with cutting-edge skills to lead better, sell better, and enjoy more success, purpose, and profit from the work they do. For a full breakdown of all the courses we offer, visit www.better-outcomes.com.au. There's also a link in the description. Now, on to today's podcast. Enjoy.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Nice and early on a Sunday morning here. Hope you're all having a good weekend so far. Mr. Harrison, how are you?
Mr. Loder, I'm exceedingly well, sir. How are yourself? How are you?
I'm good. I got half decent sleep for a change last night. Sun shining. Don't have to work. Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Just how the other side lives.
Where would you rather be on a Sunday morning? I'll tell you.
I can imagine a few places I'd rather be. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
How was your week, Paulie? Busy?
Yeah, it was, man. It was a good week. It was a real I'm very, very lucky that most of my weeks are very, very good weeks. We had I was working with a car producer and retailer, which was awesome earlier on in the week, doing some sales training, which was fantastic, and just got some beautiful instantaneous feedback. Well, instantaneous 2 days after that, with regards to some of the improvements and the results that people have got already, which is phenomenal. And then did a communications workshop on Friday, which was well attended. I think there was 19 different people on there. And I think that was 16 different businesses represented. So that was very cool, about how to be able to think quickly, speak confidently, say and do the right thing, get the right outcomes even when under pressure. So that was cool. How about yourself?
Well, I spent most of my week bumping up against people who should have been in that training course, I tell you. My God.
Well, you know where we are, mate. You know where we are.
I reckon everyone carries on about why construction takes so long and it costs so much. People can't communicate. Oh my gosh, they leave out massive chunks of information. It's just, if you get the basics right.
Yeah.
Tell me what I need to know.
Yeah. And that's dangerous, man. If especially in things like construction, heavy industry, people are not communicating well, that can end badly, you know?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly what we do, but also just in terms of the amount of time and energy wasted, because people can't get the crucial points across.
And the frustration factors as well. I think frustration between parties. There's so much frustration, conflict comes from mismanaged expectations, which I think comes from bad conversation.
Yes, and when people assume that because they know something, therefore everyone else does, because it's obvious to them, and like, oh man, that just threw a spanner in our whole day. But we still get the job done.
Yeah.
We've got all our jobs done so far. We haven't not finished one yet. So, as I'm sure everyone else has, regardless of the deadlines. Regardless of the deadlines, we always get it done. So, these false deadlines we put on ourselves to build pressure. So,
absolutely.
But while we're on the topic of training, we are going to talk about training today.
Yep.
Unique approach that I know you do, and I'm learning the approach as well as I go through the journey, on and how we can get people to get their best return on their investment, their best from their time invested into training.
Absolutely.
So it's a pretty crucial element too, I think. And when I first went to one of your courses, one of your seminars, I was amazed by the difference. I'd never seen anyone train like that before. Not only with the level of enthusiasm and the energy you brought, but the way that it was really interactive and the way you made people put themselves in different situations from their past. So we're going to talk about that today. Especially, I think it's what you coin as information exchange versus behavioral change.
Yeah.
So, and the difference between that. So, let's start off with this. I'll hand it over to you. You can talk through what we're gonna speak about today. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, fantastic, guys. Thank you, and just a quick thanks to everybody who attended the Lunch and Learn webinar. Well, folks,
Yes.
that was phenomenally well attended. We actually had more people attend and watch the replay than actually signed up for the webinar. So we had good numbers with the sign up of the webinar. Of course, it was quite niche with regards to training sales teams and high performing salespeople, self motivated salespeople. But the responses that we got from that were phenomenal. The number of people who've watched the live webinar and then the video as well, absolutely fantastic. So
and the feedback we got as well, and the feedback we got off the back of it as well was huge. So thank you all for that. Just the positive feedback, and to know that we're helping people out there, and saving some sleepless nights is that's the best part of the whole thing, I think.
Absolutely, and we'll be running more of those as well in the upcoming future with regards to different things that we're seeing in the marketplace. So different trending skills that we're seeing in the worlds of communication, leadership, and management. And I think as the market changes, different skill sets become important. So we'll keep everybody in the loop on that one. But fantastic, and thanks again, Cuz, for being there as well, which was absolutely great. But Cuz, to your point, what I think we're going to focus on today is really, I think, an absolute skill set. It's something I work on very, very hard for one reason, which is to get better outcomes for my clients. And again, I know that sounds like maybe a marketing brief or what have you, but I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit on this. And the reason I'm doing it is, again, I've got no problem with sharing what I believe to be my intellectual property, because it is something I've worked with for a long time. And I'm more than happy for people to have this information. Because again, what we sell it's not so much just the strategy, it's implementation. And one of the things is we got to focus on is making sure the clients get the best possible return on their time invested, the best possible outcomes for the training they undertake, and the people actually get results. And that's what we're after here. So one of the things I think about a lot is how do I create elite level behavioral change, not just information exchange, because anybody can go to a workshop and they can get information about how to do A, B, and C. But that doesn't mean that you're going to go away and use it. And the example I often give is, if you folks want a strategy on how to make millions in the stock market, here's the strategy: buy low and sell high. Okay, now that's a strategy, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the outcome as far as the results that you get. So what I've formulated over the last few years through a lot of study, and I mean, I know I was doing the calculation recently, I've worked out that I've done more than 19,500 hours of delivery of workshop since 2009. And that doesn't include, obviously, preparation, all the audio books that I've been through and everything like this. But this is a massive obsession for me. And it's very important to make sure that I can not just give people information on what to do, but actually get them doing the actions that they're being taught. And it's come to my conclusion a few times that me just standing there and saying, this is how you do A, B, and C, or this is, me just standing there saying, be a better leader or be an active listener. I can't just say that. I have to be able to create behavioral change. I'll give you another example here as well, is every leader out there knows the term active listening, but I can guarantee you that they are not aware, unless they've worked with me, they're not aware of the blockages that we can have as human beings to actually actively listen. So my belief is, as soon as we start getting negatively overwhelmed, we stop listening to understand and start listening for an opportunity to get our point across. And I believe there is human hardwiring elements that stop that. So I need to come up with solutions for that as well and create awareness around that. So what I've done, this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, but very, very, very important to me that clients get outcomes, they get return on time invested, all of this stuff, because this is how we set ourselves out there, is I want to create behavioral change, aka getting people to do better things to get better results, rather than them just knowing what to do. And I've figured out that there are a few steps that we'll go through to create that behavioral change versus the information exchange. So what I'm going to run you through is 5 steps that I undertake, and then the 5th step has got a couple of subsections in there to be able to make these changes. So every time that we're running the workshops, we'll start off, I have people in there that don't know each other, so there's no connection between those people yet, because they don't know each other. There's no sort of social standing or anything like that. There's no prior connections, no rapport between them, because they're all in from different businesses, never met each other. So they do a bit of an icebreaker exercise, and they cover off 4 things. And those 4 things are who they are, what they do, something unique / fun / quirky, and what they want to take away. And then what I'll do is I will get the colleague to introduce their colleague to the rest of us. So if you and I are working together, I would get those 4 things from you, and then I would introduce you to the rest of the audience. And very important is a few things here is firstly some of the terminology that's used, because that gives me an idea of how people are thinking. But then it also so what's unique and quirky about them, because then I can bring that back into the conversation to make it relevant later on. So particular interests they have, their dog's name, their cat's name, the family, or these experiences that they have, and then what they want to take away. And the fascinating thing is the colleague will introduce them, and it's like those 4 things. I say, okay, and we get on to the 4th thing, which is what they want to take away from the day. And what they maybe, let's say, like the situation I had previously, my salespeople want to sell more. They want to close better. Now, here's what I've come to the conclusion of, is very, very often the results that people want to improve on, the things people want to improve on, are what I refer to as surface level things. The example I've just given you is they want to close more, or they want to be a better leader, or they want to be able to persuade and influence better. Now, these things are what we call surface level issues, and very, very often they're driven by, in my opinion, deeper aspects. So what I'll then do is I'll ask the individual with regards to what is the outcome they want to take away, and I'll say, listen, tell me more about that. Okay. So one of the situations, going back to Friday's training, which is communication, is we had a client in the room who wanted to be able to share her point of view more in meetings. Because what she was saying was she was thinking about these things, and she's thinking, oh, should I say it? Should I not say it? And then it's, okay, well, and then somebody else would say exactly what she was going to say, and they would get the credit for it. So that is the surface level challenge. So I then had to ask, okay, so what's currently holding you back? And it was the things of fears of being shut down, that maybe she didn't know as much as people around her, all the same stuff that comes up. And then I had to get into exactly what the issue was. Okay, so there was deeper questions that I had to get an understanding of the core factors that were driving that behavior. And one of the factors is what we might call confidence. But more specifically, it is people underestimating the value that they bring to the table. And what's common knowledge to me could be a revelation to the people who are sitting opposite me. So when I can get people to realize this, then effectively they're much more empowered to share their point of view. But what I have to do is I have to get to the core reasons, the deeper reasons that are holding people back. And broadly speaking, if we talk about takeaways that people want, in the courses that I train, things like leadership, sales, communication, those 3 areas very often come down to 4 things. People want to be more confident. That's the first thing. Second thing is they want to be able to influence and persuade properly. Third thing is they want to understand other people's motivating factors. And 4th thing is they want to be able to understand somebody else's view of the world. So when I can get it down to the core aspect, then effectively if I can change that core aspect, like let's say for argument's sake, confidence, then all the rest of this will take place. It'll be absolutely fine, okay? Because it's a symptom of something deeper. And this is a massive problem in training, I think, because very often people are trying to address the symptom way before the problem, okay? So they're trying to say, okay, I need to be more confident. And they go on to do a Google search, how do I be more confident? And they come up with one of these LinkedIn checklists of 15 things to do to be more confident. Stand up straight, shake, have a good handshake, make eye contact. But it's all superficial level stuff. Yes, it's right, but it's superficial level. If I can build confidence inside someone, then naturally they're going to do that stuff all organically. Does that resonate, mate?
Absolutely. If you don't get the basics right, it's like with anything. It could be like with your diet. You know, you're trying to do 1%ers by putting supplements in, and you're just eating donuts for every meal. Like it's not going to work if you. There's no point trying to actually stand up straight and eye contact and all that if inside you're just in stressed and in terror. You know?
Absolutely.
It's going to happen. So.
We've all met people who are faking it till they make it, and it's with best of intentions. I get it, but I would way rather train my clients to build rock solid confidence here, because then they can think clearly, say and do the right thing, get the right outcome, utilize everything else there as well. So I have to identify those deeper problems. What are the deeper problems that keep coming up? Fascinating thing is, mate, I could write down before a workshop exactly what's going to come up, and it comes up. Now, people might say, well, that's bias or what have you. Okay, fine. But if clients are getting good results, then I think we're on the right track here.
Plus, you've seen it. If you can see the patterns, yeah? If you stand there and look at it once, probably doesn't look like much. But if you see it, 19,000 hours worth, you can see patterns in people. You can see the same similar things coming through. So, yeah, I would suggest that you could nail it most times.
Absolutely. And you know what's beautiful, Matt? You know what's absolutely beautiful is when somebody's talking to you around the problem that they've got, they're talking around it, and you've seen it a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then you can summarize. They say on this, and then they give you their contextual example on this, and it's like, okay, so if I understand you correctly, would you say that X, Y, and Z? You could summarize it. And the most beautiful thing is, it's like, yes, that's it. It's like fantastic. That because it's like now this person knows they're in the right place. It's like, oh yes, that's a great way of putting it. Yes, now you've got them, and you've given that first little aha moment, which is beautiful to see.
Those icebreakers that you start with as well, I think that's a key part of it. Like when you go to most training things or whatever, and they say, "All right, we go around the room, tell me who you are and what you do."
Yeah,
and everyone dreads that. Yeah. The first one I came to was actually it was one company.
Yes,
It was 20 guys, maybe 15 guys this time.
Yeah.
And as soon as you said, we're going to do some icebreakers and introductions, you could kind of say, oh, here we go. But then when they found out their mate had to talk about them,
yes,
and that changed everything. And you could see that all of a sudden everyone was excited about it.
Yeah.
Secondly, they were sat next to people. Some of them were sat next to who I'd say were friends or workmates who they but other people they weren't. They were mixed up. So all of a sudden you're bonding with someone who's in the same company as you.
Yeah.
You might never talk to. And the third thing was some of the stories that came out, something that's unique. And it came from two characters.
Yeah.
Who decided to tell each other the origin of their nickname stories. We won't go into that. We won't go there. But safe to say that I also realised that everyone there has now got something in common because they're all not only on this training session together, but they're finding out things about other people that they usually wouldn't have conversations about, and it would take quite a bit to get through.
Absolutely.
Someone from finance and someone from on the tools, all of a sudden they know a bit about each other, and they've got a connection there, so they can open up that pathway, and that was brilliant, I thought.
Absolutely.
And quite funny.
And it's nice to talk about other people. You can in a good way. It's difficult to big yourself up. You don't want to do that. There's a number of sort of social aspects on that. But when you can do it for somebody else, put somebody else over, as the Americans refer to it as, putting somebody else over, that's a nice thing to do, particularly if you've selected to sit next to this person. You haven't been forced into that situation. So there's some degree of, I'm happy to sit next to this person, which is cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Fantastic. So going into those deeper questions and identifying what the key problems are, and then what I need to be able to do is things like confidence, things like influence and persuasion, things like understanding somebody else's view of the world and how to be able to get an idea of what's going through their head, and then understanding their motivating factors. What I have to do is I have to be able to give a systems and a process-driven application to be able to get that better outcome. So how to feel more confident, this is the exercise you need to do to start seeing the value that you bring to the table. So the very important thing, and I'm so passionate about this, I really am, because I see the beautiful results that people get with this, is it has to be process-driven, a binary process they can go through to get that outcome. Because we can't just say be more confident. We can't just say be more charismatic. We can't just say be able to influence and persuade us. How do you actually do that? What are the step-by-step processes that are pragmatic, that you can put in place? Then you can do it again and again and again and again, and you will consistently get those better outcomes. And if you can make that clear cut, no gray areas, nothing like that, then effectively what's going to happen is you're going to be able to give a degree of confidence that people can utilize. Because when it's a little bit of a gray area, it's like, I'm not too sure, they won't use it. So if they're not comfortable and confident in something, they won't use it. So it has to be process driven, has to be very tangible, and they can literally do it at the drop of a hat. This is why I say very often after the workshops we run, It's like you will be able to influence and persuade the top 1% of people in business in Australia right now if you just remember this process. Okay,
That's right. Yeah,
very simple, and the story that comes along with it.
the story that comes along with it, and also with something being process driven, like you said earlier. If I go and search and I want to be better at active listening, there you go. That's quite funny, Paulie. I'll give you that.
I don't use that one very often.
Here's me being a technophobe, thinking I've gone and pushed mute on the keyboard. So if you want to be an active listener, it might say to you, you need to pay attention to the other person and look them in the eyes.
Yeah.
So you do that. But okay, so that might work. But with a process-driven system, that might be the middle step. You might have missed the first basic few things, and crucially, what you do afterwards or what you're doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So with and a lot of the time, I've noticed that when you break something down into a process, I found I was doing a couple of things, but I was doing them unintentionally.
Absolutely.
With the process, not only does it help to get you from start to finish, but it lets you understand the steps and understand why you're doing this to get to there.
Yeah.
And then if you take active listening and you start actually doing it and you break it down to that process after a while, which is the funny thing for me now, and you talked about this earlier, where the person gets under stress and they're not listening, they're only listening to reply. I can actually see it in people.
Yeah.
When they've given up listening to what I'm saying, or they've given up listening to the other person, I can see it in their eyes, I can see it in their body language, and half the time I just stop because I know I'm wasting my breath at that point. Like, you're not listening anymore, you've shut off. So it leads to further understanding as well. But getting that process right, like you said earlier, surface level stuff, you've got to get the basics right, get the process down, and all of a sudden, doors fly open, aha moments.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So again, that process-driven approach, it's linear, it's tangible, it's something I can do again and again. Because again, to your point from a little bit earlier, is from time to time people will have used this approach, but they're not aware they've used the approach. If you can make them aware of it, now they can use it intentionally, and that just makes me so happy with that. So that is the process-driven approach. Then what I'm really looking to do is, my belief is if I'm going to support people to get better outcomes, I've got to give them those tangible strategies that they can utilize. But I have to be able to shift mindsets as well. Because here's the thing. You can give people the greatest strategies in the world. Let's say, for argument's sake, because again, training a lot of salespeople, we could write the most perfect script for somebody using auto-suggestion, double binds, neurolinguistic programming, clever phraseology, all of this stuff. But if you give that script to somebody who's got crippling social anxiety, they will not be able to go out and utilize it. So very, very often what I have to do is not just with the tangibles, which I think most people are trying to address, I hope they are anyway, but ultimately I want to be able to create mindset shifts around certain things. Now, how I do that, I could take a 5-day boot camp and share with people exactly how I do that. But the thing is what I want them looking for is moments where they have mindset shifts around certain things. And very often how that can play out for us is an aha moment. It's like you're thinking about a particular context that you're dealing with. I'm presenting something in a way that hopefully is resonating. It's like, that's the mistake. I was 95% there. And it's like that last little 5% is just dropped in. It's like, that's that last little piece. And I got to tell you, cuz when people have these aha moments, it is one of the most beautiful things you can see. It's almost like a connection that you have with somebody when you it's like that, it's like, and that level of understanding. And you can see the hope that comes back into people's eyes very often, because I'm working with people who are dealing with problems that keep them up at night, and that I take this personally, very personally. And it's like, if you can see the hope, that last little 5% comes in, and now it's like, I think I know how I can deal with this into what was previously insurmountable. And that is it's a beautiful connection that you see with people. It's a confidence goes up, and it's just, you can see pupils dilating, nostrils flaring, a flinch sometimes. It's so beautiful to see it. It really, really is.
The thing that I noticed with you training is you actually, as you go through the exercise with them and you're teaching them the process, you ask them to put themselves in a position or in a situation that they've struggled with.
Yeah.
You know, like the young girl that you were speaking about, the lady you were speaking about, who wasn't sure whether or not she should speak up at a
Yes.
meeting. You know, put yourself in that position as they go along, and you in your mind's eye, you can replay the events and think, oh, that's what's happened. That's the trigger point. That's what I should do next time, or oh,
Yeah.
that's what. And you can see the relief or the realization come out of their body. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's another difference as well, where you can actually, because it's process driven, you've done it with me, where I can break down a scenario and go, oh, okay, I'll try it. Next time I bump into that, I'll try it this way.
Yeah.
I'll try this. Shut my mouth and start listening to the person instead of, just labeling or whatever it is you're doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful because again, I take this very, very, very seriously, man. I really do. The reason I'm still the reason I'm in the country, why I have citizenship and all of that, is because the Australian government, identified those skill sets that I've got and said, listen, we need this in the area, in the country, and it's a big commitment for me. It's like I want to make sure that I do the right thing, to make sure that I've earned everything there, and seeing people having those breakthroughs is absolute gold. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail because what I want to be able to do is create those mindset shifts. The way it plays out is the aha moments. But I'm going to go through how I actually do them. Now, again, I could probably run a workshop on each one of these 4 or 5 different steps we're going to go through. But a few of the things I want to share with people is creating those aha moments. There's 4 or 5 different ways, broadly speaking. There's some of them I could niche in, but I'm probably going to go into too much detail in that situation. But the first one is I want to remove or weaken limiting beliefs that people hold about themselves or about their environment, situations they're dealing with, the companies they work with. And very, very often, there are people who I will hear in their terminology and their tonality that they will have certain limiting beliefs that they hold about themselves, their background, their experiences, their situations they find themselves in on the regular. Now, this is a very personal subject that people will hold. And the fascinating thing is if you run at a limiting belief that somebody holds, you tell them they're wrong to have that belief, you're only going to deal with objections, defense mechanisms, all of these different situations, and it doesn't lead to a good outcome. But what I have been able to do is to get people to think about, and I might not even do this in the first few minutes because we haven't got that deep rapport yet. If I can build deep rapport towards the end, and which, the more time we go on, the more I can utilize techniques to build that rapport, then very often people are going to become more open to taking on what I'm saying, because people have preconceived ideas. They have a look at you, they see you. Naturally, we take on, we do this as human beings. Effectively, if those defense mechanisms come up, I've lost the client for the rest of the day. So one of the things I have to be able to do is remove or weaken some of those limiting beliefs. And the techniques that we utilize for that is getting people to think about what does that belief currently cost them, or what is that belief that they've got. And I'll give you one example. I had a guy who said that whenever he was presenting, the audience was not taking him seriously. Now that's a belief he's got, and that's important. It's important. It's important to him. So I have to meet him at his view of the world. And I said, okay, so this audience that you're presenting to, have they said to you they're not interested in what you're saying? And he goes, no. And I said, okay. So I said, how do you know? He goes, it's just a feeling I've got. Now, the truth of the matter is, mate, I walk in to present, and maybe 10% of the time, quite regularly, I will go into a workshop and I will start picking up early on, particularly, that there are certain people in the room who might have a negative preconceived idea about me for whatever reason. I mean, maybe I look like somebody they don't like, or a profile they don't like, or my accent, or, my shiny head, whatever. Okay, there's some issue there. But the first thing I have to check in with, and this is real, especially when you're presenting, because it's like you're exposed there.
Yeah.
But then I have to say, okay, is this my insecurities, or do I have a problem with this person? And a minuscule amount of time, I think initially, a fair number of times there's people who maybe had a negative preconceived idea about me, but my goal is to try and connect with them and turn them. Okay. There's only been 4 people that I would never work with again. And those were 4 people that I was not able to turn. I was not able, out of 14,000 people now, only 4 people I would never work with again. Because I wasn't able to turn them. My perception was their negative preconceived idea about me was that strong that they wouldn't be open to learning. And I'm not going to waste anybody's time or anything like that to work with them again. But the first thing I have to check in with is, okay, does this person not like me? And maybe they're right not to like me, fine. Or is it my own insecurities that are telling me that I'm picking up some resentment? And this even could be in my earlier days, not so much now, but somebody sitting looking at me like this, or they've got their arms crossed. You know, those physiological traits that we've spoken about before that don't necessarily mean that people are they're negative to you. It's just it's something we see, and our insecurities make us feel like that. So, but I couldn't say to him, "You're wrong to make that assumption." This guy's talking about his insecurities, or the people don't like what he's saying. It's their problem. It's their problem. I couldn't tell him he's wrong in that moment, because if I did, his defenses are up. It's like, well, you just don't understand, and then he's disconnected from the rest of the time. So what I have to be able to do is I have to be able to work with people to get them to ask themselves, is this a belief or is this true? Now, if somebody says to me, Paul, I don't like you for X, Y, and Z reason, then I've got to take them at their word. But if it's no, it's a negative projection they're giving me, they're not interested in being there, maybe they had an argument at home or something like that, then I can take that as something that's conflicting to me. So what I always want to try and do is get people to make sure that they are charitable with their interpretations until proven wrong. Because that, for one reason, nothing to do with the audience. Well, I mean, maybe the audience gets a better presentation, but it's to keep you in the right state. And that's a big one. It really is a big one. Now, how we do that, that all links into a lot of the other stuff we've spoken about. But getting people to identify particularly, and I'm quite I'm quite gentle around belief systems that people have at the beginning of the day, because we're not in rapport yet and people can make snap judgments, and it's something very personal to them. So I will start just getting them to think about maybe what's that currently costing them, or what will be the thing we can make the changes. And then I'll bring in those the removal of limiting beliefs a little bit later. So that's a huge thing. I have to be able to...
There was another example I can give you of a tough case you had, and it was around someone's identity that you were having problems breaking, because this person was very set on the fact that I'd only ever be a carpenter, only ever saw himself as a carpenter, and it took you a long time to break through the fact that I was more than that. That was one of my big limiting, and still is. I have my days where I think of myself as just a tradie. I need to be a tradie. So it can be someone's identity, the way they see them, which is a massive thing to start messing with, especially if you just walk in and say, hey, everybody, I'm here to change who you think you are. You're not going to get much out of me if you come with that approach. So it took you a long time to break through to me, to make me understand that I'm more than that.
Yeah.
I could be something else other than that, because that's all I ever saw myself as. So yeah, that's a real tough one. And you can, like you said, you can't, not cagey, would you say gentle? You've got to be very purposeful on how you approach that, because it can turn.
Absolutely. And if you attack someone on how they perceive themselves, you better tighten your boots, because it's crazy. It impacts every single every single one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It really does.
Yeah,
it really does. And the terrifying thing is very often people can't make the link between not getting the outcomes they're after and how they're perceiving themselves. Those limiting beliefs that are just filtering them. And it's from a psychological point of view, it's fascinating. What I have to be able to do is, if my North Star is better outcomes for clients, I have to be able to get them to be aware of potential limiting beliefs that they hold about themselves.
Yeah, especially when you start talking about identity and status that goes along with it, and how they're interlinked. That person might be very, very proud of the fact that they are that.
Yes.
Or see themselves as that, and have worked hard to get to that point.
Yeah.
And then you're going to tell them, hey, something else going on here.
Yeah.
You're in for a bit of a rough ride, so you have to be very, very careful in your approach.
Absolutely. And you know what, Cuz, I'll make this a little bit personal now as well, just very quickly on this. is one of the worst times of my life. One of them. Okay, worst times of my life over the age of sort of 25, 26 was when I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And all I'd wanted to do, my mentality before reading that book was that I wanted to make a mark in this world. I wanted to be good in business. I wanted to do this. So I was highly motivated, but didn't obviously go to university, didn't have a university degree or anything like that. And my desire was to become what was going to give me an indication as to whether I'd been successful in business or not, was I wanted to be the youngest associate director in the Square Mile, the financial services of London. Yep. Coming from, and bearing in mind, I was still working nightclubs on weekends. Okay, because we were making good money, but it was because I had to keep on to that blue collar mentality that I loved so much, and I resented sort of white collar, that type of thing, which was a crazy thing. But then I read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he makes the point in there. Kiyosaki makes the point in there. I know there's been some shade thrown at him recently, but he was talking about you could make a bigger impact on this world and be successful in everything you want as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, more so than you can as an employee. And that destroyed me. It was like, for so long, how much I put into this. It was like, now I read this book and this guy tells me that my complete approach is completely wrong, but still a lot of the stuff he says resonates with me. So there's credibility that I'm seeing in what he's writing. So I couldn't just dispel it. But this was a massive clash. And mate, this cost me relationships, or a significant relationship. It cost me the amount of stress, health, all of this stuff. It was the biggest internal conflict. And here was the thing. It involved nobody else. It was my internal conflict, but it was me going to war with the internal perception that I had of myself. I was going to war with myself. And it's one thing to go to war with somebody else, to have an issue with somebody else. We've all had issues with somebody else. But when you go to war with yourself, that is a rough place to be. And you start to realize everything I am here to get the outcome I want, I'm not capable of doing it. I have to be able to make changes if I want to get those better outcomes. And that was brutal, man. That's why I'm very, very gentle with how people perceive themselves, because I know if somebody had been hard with me on that line, there would have been some problems. There would have been some very real problems.
Yeah.
So I had to discover. You see, in that case, me discovering it was not easy. It wasn't painless, but it was a lot easier than if somebody just said to me, "Listen, you're messing up," and then make it personal. Now I got to defend myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sorry, it just flashed into my mind now, but that was
good point.
Yeah, that was the biggest interpersonal conflict I've ever had, and it was months, man. I'm not talking days; it was months.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of deep thinking and a lot of reflection, and a lot of talking to myself and trying to get
all those aha moments when all of a sudden, out of the blue, you get hit with a different, way of you're coming at it, like you said, that limiting belief.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, it's like, whoa. What am I doing? Think about
it. It was a rough go, man. It was beautiful as well. And thank goodness I came to that realization at that age, rather than being 50 years old and coming to that revelation that I've got to start my own businesses, to get to where I want to go. Because I think there's a lot of people finding that out at the moment. But so removing and weakening limiting beliefs that people hold about themselves. Speak to me, Kaz.
No, that's me, 50 years old, just working stuff out, mate.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, well, years, age. You got those good genetics, bro.
That's it.
And then, so removing and weakening limiting beliefs. And one of the ways to do this is hit that problem from the same problem from slightly different contexts, because people have got different ways of learning. So we hit it from different scenarios. If not everyone resonates, one of them certainly will resonate with that example, and somewhere along the line that those limiting beliefs start to crumble, which is great. Another technique we utilize is a technique called a reframe. So instead of somebody saying to me that they feel that one of the problems that they can't influence, persuade, or be assertive is because they are people pleasers. And very often these people who are sharing this with me will say, I'm just a people pleaser and that's just who I am. and they will perceive people pleasing as a bad thing. Now, I don't believe that people pleasing is a bad thing, because here's what I can promise you is very often, so it's a reframe, it's a different way of thinking people pleasing. Yes, I'll give you the skill set to be more assertive and influence and persuade, but if you're a people pleaser, I'm willing to bet you've got a reasonably high degree of emotional intelligence. Also, you're probably quite good at building rapport with people, which is something that people who are not people pleasers don't very often have. Okay, they don't have that massive high degree of emotional intelligence. They're just a little bit. They're a little bit more on the agreeability side. So we just got to strengthen that up a little bit. But I need to get them to reframe how they think about themselves. If they've labeled themselves as people pleasers, it's like, okay, cool. Well, that's great, because you've got that ability to have empathy with people. You have the ability to build connection and have light conversations with people to start with, which is a skill set a lot of other less agreeable people don't have. Okay, so a reframe on that and seeing it more as a positive and positive area, which is something that's empowering for them, and then we can build on the other aspect as well, because it becomes dangerous when we start putting those labels on ourselves, saying I can't be assertive because I'm a people pleaser. And if I put that label on myself, then very often that means I can't get that outcome. Does that resonate there, Cuz?
Yeah, it does. And it goes back to what you said earlier about the process-driven part where, okay, I'm a people pleaser. Yeah, but you build rapport with people very well.
Yeah.
You see the world from their point of view. You're able to connect with them well. You're doing all those things as part of the process anyway. You're just missing a couple of steps in how to implement it. So rather than take everything away, you just got to learn a couple other key steps and you're good to go. So
Absolutely.
Yes, it's positive.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So reframes are important. Next thing I focus on is when they've told me a little bit about themselves from that first round, I'm starting to get an idea of the language they're utilizing and how they see the world and what's important to them. Okay, so I'll remember key little things like their interest, their team, their dog's name, their breed of dog they've got, cats, the family they've got, all of the things that they've identified with me as something unique / fun / quirky, playing in a band, what have you. I want to bring that type of thing back into some of the stories I can share a little bit later. So a lot of the stories I have to make it contextual, I will tweak the story to fit their narrative. So to fit a situation. So we had a phenomenal client, an absolute phenomenal client who was in on Friday, and he does a lot of training for the Tigers, for the footy team. Richmond, is that it?
Richmond, yeah.
And so you can see he was up on the footy.
Oh, yeah.
But being able to give examples that would bring in the football and Tigers and stuff like that, and it makes it relevant to people, and people love that. It makes them feel like it's like, oh, that's absolutely awesome. Also, something I can do is I can talk about problems that I see, like people underestimating the value they bring to the table, or mistakes that they made that they couldn't see from one story I told. Because then what I can do is, if I can talk about things that I see and hopefully have earned by that time some credibility, they can start self-selecting, thinking, you know what, I make that mistake. And here's the interesting thing. I think very often if we think we're making a mistake where we're the only ones doing it, we think we're the one with the problem. But if I can address this as the biggest problem out there, everybody else making this mistake as well, then they feel it's a little bit more acceptable. It's a little bit more, okay, I'm okay to do this. It's like, it's not serving me, but it's maybe part of being a human being, because very often I go into a lot of the deeper psychology aspects of human beings and some of the hard wirings we've got. But it's, if I've got a problem and I think I'm the only one with that problem, now that's a problem. If I've got a problem that everybody else has got as well, it makes it a little bit more acceptable, and I'm a little bit more okay with it. If we're okay with that. So identify.
You're not that special, kid, is what I always got told. You're not that special. Someone's had this problem before, a variation of it. Someone's had it worse. But the more you hang on to it, the worse it's going to be.
Again, it's people have got to realize that it's not that I can't just say it directly to them. But if I say 95% of the people I see make this mistake, they think, you know what, I can resonate with that. I've made that mistake as well. And that's then, it's like, it gives them a little bit more faith, because it's like, oh, thank goodness, if somebody else has made the mistake, then hopefully there's a solution to it as well.
Breaks down that barrier. It breaks down that barrier of, I don't know whether it's a little bit of shame or whatever, that I've actually got this problem. you mean everyone else has got this problem too? All right,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. And that's half the problem. That's half the battle. The
Yeah.
stigma of what you think is going to be something that someone holds against you. So
Absolutely. And you know, the thing is, cuz I think that a lot of time, if you're really going through a tough situation, logically we all know that other people battle with stuff as well, but emotionally we feel very isolated in that situation. Very, very often. You know, and people, and here's the other thing, man, I'm going to be very straight with this. There's a lot of people out there that say you should always have somebody you can go and talk to. You should always have a partner who wants to listen. You should always have close friends who are going to be happy for you when you're happy and upset for you when you're upset. But here's the truth of the matter. There's a lot of people, and I'm just going to say it, who don't have friends that are really good friends. Yeah, I'm convinced that there's also a lot of people, and this is going to get me into trouble, but so bring it on, that are in relationships where maybe them and their partners don't get on that well. Let's be straight up about this. There are, you know, and so it's not that everybody's always got the greatest friends and the greatest people to reach out to, and that is way before anybody, you know, us addressing the stigmas of sharing the stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's something I want to be real with on this. It's like, yes, people should have friends, and I clarify this a lot of the time when I'm talking about, you know, hoping you folks all have friends that have got their stuff together, got their lives together. They're not jealous of you, because, you know, there's even terminology where, you know, people are associated with other people, but they don't want these other people to see that they're doing better than themselves, you know. So there's an aspect of jealousy there as well. But yeah, I wanted to go into that because I think a lot of the time, and it's, you know, a lot of the time people keep their challenges to themselves because they're not always sure that the people around them can handle what they're going to say or are going to take it in the best possible way. So I just want to get that as well, because
and I think they're worried some. Oh, sorry, Karen.
Yeah, no, because a lot of people talk to me about this after workshops. People from all different situations, all different sectors, all different roles, men and women, what have you. They will come and talk to me about this, and they'll say, "Listen, it's like this is an issue." And you know, one woman said to me, she goes, "What my friends say to me and what they put on social media are two completely different things." And she was an expat, so she was in the country. I think she's from the UK originally, so still trying to form those friendship networks and stuff like that. And she's saying, you know, it's like, who do I know how to trust? It's like, so we had some further conversations on that. But yeah, it's again, people say you should always have people around you that you can approach. And I hope you do, but very often people battle with those. So I think personally for myself, there's been a lot of people that I've wanted to go and search out, and particularly people of good character. And there's things I look for. Maybe we can do another podcast on that as well.
Yeah.
But,
definitely to have some good people around you. And people you can you don't have to share everything with everyone, but you could, like me, a lot of the times there's only a few people who I share everything with, where other times certain people only get a certain part of me.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's based around the judgment. People are worried about how they'll be judged.
Absolutely.
You know, and like you said, if you don't have people of good character and understanding around you, that can be something that they really hold on to. They don't want to feel like they're being judged for whatever reason. So,
and you know what? One of the many things you're very good at doing in these interpersonal communications is when you start to pick up that somebody's battling with something. I think you have a very, very good degree of emotional intelligence there, but you start picking up what this person's not saying. And then if you've had an experience in your life that you can bring relevance to, it's like, oh yeah, you know, there was something similar I've experienced, but then they put me onto this, and this.
Yeah.
And so you can address the thing that people are concerned about sharing. And you can maybe tell a story or something about experience as well. It's sort of big me or anything like that. You make it okay for them to share that aspect. I've seen you do that a few times, mate, and that's awesome. It's a great connector. It really is.
It's something that I picked up off my doctor, actually, my old doctor. He's no longer with us. He was a great man. He was a really good bloke. And he explained to me how blokes communicate. And this was a long time ago. He goes, if me and you want to have a conversation about something that's touchy or that I'm concerned about, we'll go to the pub, we'll sit next to each other, we'll look at each other in the mirror, we won't make eye contact, and we'll talk about it in kind of a third party kind of a way, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got him asking for a friend kind of situation.
Yeah.
And
The friend's got some problems, huh?
this bloke's got some issues, I tell you. We know him. But happy birthday, Johan.
Yeah.
And when he explained that to me, I started to pay attention to how I communicated with people. And like you said, I can pick up when someone doesn't want to talk about something or they're a bit touchy around it, think through my experiences real quickly and come up with like a third party suggestion. Oh, listen, I know such and such who was having this kind of issue. You know, it kind of removes ownership of it.
Yeah.
Also, it's good for me because if I end up being miles wrong, then it's not me. It's someone else. But then all of a sudden that can generate an opening. It can knock that barrier down, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's what I." I'm like, "Oh mate, I know the guy. I've been through that." Like that's all of a sudden, all the stigma around whatever they were hanging on to has disappeared, and we're off. We're off to the races. So, again, it comes back to that. The whole call, active listening, seeing it from their point of view. And I don't know how I do that, but it's good fun when that happens because you can make some real breakthroughs. And the best part is you get to help people. Done Absolutely. That a few times as well. So helping people out who need that little bit of reassurance or guidance or whatever makes it worthwhile, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. You do that very well. And then there's just two other things that I'll touch on here is the ability to make the aha moments or the breakthroughs is asking rhetorical questions. And what I mean by that is if somebody's talking to me about a particular challenge that they're dealing with, and I can give them the skill sets around it, but I need to check that the motivation's there because it's part skill sets, but do you have the motivation to actually utilize this? Because if the problem's big enough, you'll do something about it. If the reward's big enough, you'll do something about it. If it's not, and it's going to take work, maybe you don't do it. Okay. So one of the things I will do is I will say something like, I'll ask a rhetorical question, meaning that I'm not looking for an answer in that moment. So it might be like, okay, this thing we want to organize with, I can help you with that. My question to you is what is that problem currently costing you? And I don't need an answer right now because if I can get them to reflect on it, then firstly, I bypass the ego, which often can give me an answer straight away if I put pressure on the person, but it's a knee-jerk reaction very often. But if I can get them to reflect on it, sit with it, be okay with it, then very often another answer will come out, which is great.
Yeah, you do that. Yeah, you do that beautifully, bud. Especially when you put it up front, when you say, listen, I'm going to ask you this now. It's a tough question. I don't need an answer for it right now.
Yeah.
It takes the heat out of it, so to speak, and it doesn't put me on the spot.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it doesn't get me panicking, don't go fight or flight.
Yeah.
Sweet, I can think about it. I don't even need to talk to them. I don't even need to answer or open my mouth. I can just sit here and pretend I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I really love that technique. I really do.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It really, really is. It's beautiful to see people be okay with it, and it's like, just reflect on it. Just give it some thought.
Yeah.
We'll see where we go from there. And then the final thing is I have to always make it relevant and enjoyable. So I have to bring a good energy to the workshop, which is not always everybody loves, I suppose, but a good energy, not sort of over the top or anything like that. But I have to keep my energy levels high because if I just become sort of stock standard down the line, it's just going to be a long day. And I have to so bring a good energy and make it enjoyable for people as well. So if I can make it enjoyable, people get a few laughs. If they get questions answered, if they're questioning them, asking questions to themselves, it's going to lead to a high degree of engagement. And if we're going to create behavioral change, we have to hold attention as well. Yeah. And that's how we do it. So that's what we're getting the results for, and of course, making ourselves available after the training as well. So if people have further questions on that, or they want to reach out the next couple of weeks and see how things have gone, then happy to do so.
I think that's important as well because it's not until example again, process driven stuff where they learn the process and then they go back into the workplace or whatever it is and they start implementing these techniques and strategies. All of a sudden things start to turn for them. So while they give good feedback when they're on the course, a couple of weeks down the track, couple of months, whatever, it's like, whoa, this stuff's working.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh God, that's so good.
So yeah,
Yeah,
Good times, man. Good times.
absolutely.
Some good stuff there, Paulie. We could
Hunter,
probably
well,
talk about
I
another
appreciate it, man.
time.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we could keep talking about this for a while, couldn't we? But
Good.
who's going to listen?
Yeah. Well, hopefully a lot of people, but there we go. But
Yeah.
you got a big week on, mate?
No. For a change, I have in a couple of days.
Good on you, mate.
Of usual stuff, and then I am jet setting to Queensland for a bit of a family reunion, catch up with a couple of people that I know up there, and spend some time in warm weather or mild weather. I'd actually take partially mild over what's going on outside at the moment. So
Yeah.
catch up with them. Bit of a long weekend for me, but yeah, we're under the pump at work as per normal. Yourself, busy week.
Yeah, I've got a big this week. I've got 5 days back to back, so two times 2 day leadership courses, and then influence and persuasion on Friday. So I think I'm looking at about 50 people over the 5 days. 50 people, yeah, and there'll be a lot of different business sectors represented there, but it'll be good. It's keep me on the straight and narrow, keep me focused, keep me lean and hungry.
Oh, yeah.
No time for tomfoolery.
No time for tomfoolery. But thank you for all that. Thank you for your time.
Beautiful.
Appreciate
Right back at you, my man. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thanks to everyone listening. Thanks for the feedback. We will keep going, whether you like it or not.
They love it. They love it. 100%. Brilliant, cuz. Thanks so much again, folks. Until next time, over and out. Cheers.